So the Great War, otherwise known as World War I, has just ended. Now the Allied nations need to come together to peace talks to discuss what their plan is moving forward. They all agree that communally, one nation will take the blame and responsibility for this tragedy, Germany. So there are 5 key nations that we're looking at and their goals at these peace talks going forward. The outcome of these goals, whether they were achieved or not, will directly affect what is coming with World War II and the reasons behind it. A lot of the frustration and actions that happen here at these peace talks will directly contribute to World War II. Now, the 5 nations we're looking at are Japan, Italy, Britain, the United States, and France. So the United States came in at the last minute to this war. Britain, France, Italy, and Japan, they've been in it pretty much since the beginning. Meanwhile, the Americans swoop in at the last minute, but they bring in those much needed reinforcements and supplies to finish off this war. So begrudgingly, Woodrow Wilson is given this pedestal to speak and lead these meetings. And President Wilson comes in with his 14-point plan for how they're going to fix and restore world peace. In these 14 points, they can ultimately be summarized into: we need to achieve world peace, even if it means appeasing certain nations' demands, to therefore achieve the outcome of world trade being reenacted. America is very determined to get commerce back up and going, to get the economy flowing again. Now, this is in direct conflict with France's plan. See, France has been utterly devastated. Their terrain doesn't look the same anymore. Germany has swept in, and we've seen at the Battle of Verdun where the sole goal was to eliminate the French there, to deter the British from even joining, because they were viewed as the real enemy. So France feels completely and utterly betrayed and used and destroyed throughout this war. And they 1000% want to go and do the absolute same. Their outcome goal for this peace talk is to decimate Germany. They will no longer be a nation with any power. They want to strip them militarily, economically, in every way possible. Now, the United States is looking at this. We know Germany was a political industrial giant right before World War I. And so they know what trade purposes they can serve. And so the US doesn't really want to punish Germany too harshly. They joined in at the last minute. Have they lost a lot of troops? Absolutely, but nowhere near what France has seen. So France, the United States, very different sides. And in the middle, we have Great Britain. See, Great Britain understands where France is coming from. They've lost a lot of men. They've lost a lot of resources and supplies and so much during this war. But they also understand where the United States is coming from in terms of getting commerce back up and going. See, Britain is nothing if not an empire, and that empire is a commonwealth, and getting flow and trade functioning throughout the world benefits them. However, there is a point where they can appease this idea of between the French and the Americans, and that is the fact that France wants them drained militarily, and the British have one thing they are so well known for: their navy. Now, the Germans, Cousin Wilhelm, built up this German navy right before the start of World War I. And the British see this as a great opportunity to call for, hey, let's appease the French and get rid of this navy. We can get 2 things accomplished at once. We can start to strip the German military, eradicating any chance of a navy that could in any way compete with ours. So we have the US on one side strictly wanting trade. We have France absolutely wanting to devastate Germany. And meanwhile, Great Britain is kind of in between. Their main goal is the protection of their empire and their navy. and then meeting the other two's goals. On the flip side, we have two other nations lurking in the background. They both have similar goals of recognition and wanting territory. See, Italy and Japan, they both were kind of off to the side. Italy, up to this point, they've been in the middle of Europe, but they've not really nationalized until recently. So coming onto this national stage, ready to promote this idea of nationalism, building up Italy as we know it, is a new big dream of theirs. And they've been trying to get territory in the Ottoman Empire. They've been trying to start establishing them to play with these big players like Britain and France and the US, who is quickly coming into the imperialism itself. And so as we see this happening, Italy is determined. In fact, they were promised, hey, if you join us in fighting Germany, we'll give you these territories. Only to discover that now these other nations aren't so keen to fulfill that promise. And in the background, you have Japan, who came out of isolationism. We had all these Western territories coming into Asia and starting to move into China and the Philippines. And with that, pulling Japan out of isolationism. And here they are on the world stage, ready to participate, wanting to get these Asian nations out of Western hands and back into the hands of Asian territories. Why not them? And so they come to the table ready only to be ignored. Both Italy and Japan will have their territorial requests mostly denied, with only getting tiny portions allocated to them. Japan will be so angered at how much they are ignored and dismissed throughout this meeting that they'll actually leave early. And while Italy is considered kind of part of this big four, it's really just the big three operating here. This will build up a resentment between both Italy and Japan in this belief that these other Western nations don't truly care about them. They're only out for themselves, especially when we see the turnaround where all of a sudden these Middle Eastern territories are being doled out to split between Britain and France. See, the argument given to Italy was, we don't want you to seem too imperialistic. Getting all these territories, building up your empire, imperialism is not the way, only to turn around and give them yet more territories in the Middle East to Britain and France, two imperial powers, as the US itself is also in the background, spreading out that empire. So this will build a resentment in both Japan and Italy, that all you seem to respect is imperialism, is being an empire. Watch me, I will show you. And we will see this contribute directly to Italy and Japan joining up with Hitler and the Nazi powers at the start of World War II.